Welcome everybody
to Black Shoe.
We're gonna.
I
thought it was my turn because it was.
I mean, we could fight over it.
Take two.
Jinx, you guys aren't allowed to talk
take
for
two.
an hour.
Yeah. And you owe me a beer.
Fuck. All right.
Welcome to the most exciting episode of Black Sheep and Bad Apples, hosted by me, Sam, your host.
Yeah.
The hosty guy.
The host.
My co-host here, Lauren O'Brien.
Yeah.
Drinking a delicious beer. What kind of beer you got there, buddy?
I got here at 10.5%, 10.2%. Fall River Brewing Company Widowmaker.
All right.
What
So
size
later
boys?
tonight we'll be breaking the bad news to Kelly because apparently Lauren's gonna die.
What?
Dying.
How many ounces is in that bottle?
It's a 1 pint and 6 fluid ounces. I think that makes it 22.
22.
Yeah.
Oh.
Nice.
And
Did you know in Ireland that's a real pint?
Makes
We
sense.
could debate that. I don't
mean,
know the
I
authenticity
just talked to
of that.
Tracy. She told me
Oh.
it's either 20.
Oh
or
well, if
tw-
Tracy said it, it's true.
It's either
Yeah.
20 or 22. In Ireland, a pint is 20 or 22 ounces. In America, it's 16.
You guys don't know who Tracy is listening to this, but she's
might.
our
She's a good Irish lass,
friend,
and she would never tell a lie.
and she would never lie because she's from
Ireland,
Ireland.
and that's
Where
science.
The truth was I don't know if you guys know this, but somebody invented the truth in Ireland.
Ah,
Yeah,
But they
before there was
also
only
invented lies
falsehoods.
there too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of rough.
Right. So moving around the table, we've got our resident storyteller, Joe Dacey,
Howdy, howdy.
You
and somewhere in the background we have our
racing
engineer,
racing to his
host,
seat.
overlord, Sean Hill. Thanks
All
for having
hail.
us here again, buddy.
Yeah, you know that's
Little plug on Fourth Corner Productions.
In the
here.
background, being silent as a mouse, we have Little Man, the dog, the mascot,
Yeah.
the mystery, the wonder himself, and Ron Baca Jr.,
The junior.
who's being quiet as a mouse.
Just like Little Man.
He's helping. He's doing quality control tonight.
So yeah, that's a good job for him.
Yeah.
So are you guys ready for this?
I think so.
Um,
I'm not 100% certain.
I'm not 100% certain either, so that makes two of us.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun ride.
that makes America right.
Yeah, it makes America
Makes-
right
yeah,
now. So yeah, big shout out to everybody who's staying home and self-quarantining,
Quarantining.
getting drunk by themselves alone,
Yeah.
We're rebels going against the
or
government
whatever,
right now.
whatever you do to get your jollies
Yeah.
off when you're all alone. Thanks for staying safe out there, and we're not going to address that shit any further.
I like that.
So yeah, I think I've got an interesting and ridiculous
What
episode.
are you doing?
Well, I wanted to I wanted to stick with the. I like how we've been doing like themes and like then episodes in the theme, and I felt like the overarching theme at this point for the last two episodes, was cryptids, because we mentioned Sasquatch.
Yeah.
In Joe's, and Sean was talking about Nessie.
Oh yeah, Nessie.
And so I felt like it was important we should continue on this theme. And so I picked another cryptid, and then
Was it squid heads?
no.
Ooh.
We'll
Melonheads?
get there. We'll get there. I'm not gonna
Space
say
whales.
that. We're gonna start by setting
Kentucky
the
goblins.
The atmosphere.
setting the atmosphere, setting the stage for our cryptid that we're gonna find out about. So
Dramatic.
this cryptid comes from a very interesting biome in the world. It comes from the Gobi Desert. So I'm gonna hit you with some Gobi Desert facts real quick.
That's some bullshit.
I don't even know where the Gobi Desert is.
The Gobi Desert is in southern Mongolia. It's in China.
Okay.
It's one of the driest places in the world. But it's a desert caused by the Himalayas, right? So like the Himalayas block all the water that would come from the Indian Ocean and should fall the Gobi, it all falls out as snow into the Himalayas. So it's really dry, and it's also really fucking cold, with like these huge temperature swings. Almost 100 degrees like temperature swings from winter to summer.
Jesus Christ.
Like ranging from 40 below Celsius in the winter time to like about 45 in the summer. So the summer's not too bad. Summer be kind of pleasant. But it's just like this desolate, dry place that's inhabited by like cute little kangaroo mice and camels and people. Some people.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like a freezing, burning shithole to me.
Put it in perspective. It's 500,000 square miles. The United States is 3.5 million square miles. So it's, it's like a significant chunk of the United States.
It's crazy how
damn.
big the United States is when you think about it.
All right, let me get my notes out here.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I had a friend
It's
who was
quite
talking about
large.
driving around Ireland,
Well, like-
and she was like, it takes 6 hours. Or 8 hours or something like that.
I hitchhiked
Even
all
less.
around Ireland.
Yeah.
I walked all around Ireland.
When you
Yeah, I'm
think about
pretty sure
driving
you can
across...
like bike across Ireland in a very reasonable amount of
Yeah,
time.
when you think about crossing the United States, though, you're like, all right, 6 days, given weather, it seems
Done
about
in
right.
4.
The
Go
si-
through
yeah.
like different climates, different
Yeah.
types of area.
The
Yeah,
size
over
of
a bunch
Texas
of mountains.
alone is as big as a lot of countries out there.
Huh?
I said the size of Texas alone is the size of a lot of countries.
Oh yeah,
You know,
for sure.
like-
And also like you could fit, I think most European countries like smack dab in the middle of the Gobi Desert, just
Yeah.
Great, so
with
it's
a
tiny.
generous
Even more.
with a generous amount of space around it. Yeah, no, it's not tiny. It's huge.
No, I know. I'm being
Uh,
facetious.
yeah, it gets like 7.6 inches of rain a year. It's really fucking dry.
Oh,
And most of the time it's cold. So the thing, this cryptid, right? I feel like this is the dumbest one of them all, right?
Oh
This is
no,
why
I love
picked
this
it.
one.
It's the Mongolian Death Worm,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Okay.
The Mongolian Death Worm. Oh, jeez. So
didn't like the leader of Mongolia come out and talk about how much he loves them, or like he believes in it, or something like that?
well, it seems like from what I nobody's ever even fucking faked a picture of this thing. You know what I mean? Like it is like it's literally just lore, like local lore. And at some point in I want to say the 80s, maybe it was the 1880s. I'd have to look again. This guy, Roy Chapman Andrews, who's like a Indiana Jones kind of character, he was traveling through the Gobi Desert a bunch looking for dinosaur fossils. He was one of the first people to find fossilized dinosaur eggs, and they found that in the Gobi Desert, like the Flaming Cliffs or something like that. And so he was really skeptical about this death worm. Like it's purported to be able to like shoot like a laser or like electricity.
That's what I heard.
This appearance, the appearance of it is that I found, like the description is pretty funny. It is shaped like a sausage, about 2 foot. It sounds really terrifying.
About 2 feet.
2 foot long sausage, has no head nor legs, and is so poisonous that merely to touch it means instant death.
Jesus Christ.
And it is said to like inhabit the most desolate parts of the Gobi Desert. So this guy, Roy, who works
Don't trust
for
I believe it.
Oh, I don't trust
His name's
a
Roy. You gotta trust him.
Oh, I don't trust a Roy at all.
No,
What?
that's-
well,
yeah.
I mean, but he's got 3 names:
When
Roy
it comes to-
Chapman Andrews.
yeah,
right?
he's got 3 names.
Oh,
Means he's
so
trustworthy.
that means he's gonna kill a president one day.
Oh, that's true, but he's
Yeah.
already dead. Now, and so in 1926, this guy was in the Gobi Desert, and he heard all about this Mongolian death worm, and he was super skeptical because he's a man of science, which I appreciate about him. And he found a it's called a Tartar sand boa. And it's a big snake, but it's not a huge snake. It's a boa constrictor. It's not poisonous. And so he brought this thing to the these people who claimed that they had seen this Mongolian death worm, and he was like, "Is this the thing you saw?" And they were like, "Yeah, totally. That's it right there. That's the Mongolian death worm. How are you touching it?" And he's like, "It's a fucking snake, you idiots."
All right.
So
I'm just picturing like this like cucumber looking object out in the middle of this Gobi desert, but it's like sand white instead of green.
Like an overgrown cucumber when you like keep watering and forget
Yeah,
to pick it,
exact-
and now it's like
and
way
it's like-
too big,
it-
and
yeah,
you're
it's
like,
like
they're
nice
really
and
cool,
chunky.
right? And they're like, what am I gonna do with that?
Yeah, and
I
that's
picture
what
a bunch
pictured.
of legs on the side like a centipede.
Ooh.
He said it didn't have legs. Yeah,
Well,
so
like kind of just like the little feelers that kind of move you around.
yeah, I mean,
or like the little sticks that the Tremors worm has.
Yeah.
I think that like a bunch of people have like taken that. I think this is where all our like giant sandworm
Oh yeah.
Tremors.
sci-fi
Yeah.
everything comes from like the Shai Halud in Dune to Tremors to you
So,
name it.
I was gonna ask if Beetlejuice is Mongolian.
Oh. Don't say it again, but like I totally like I could see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah. It hibernates most of the year and comes out to like zap you with its venom if you're like walking around in the wrong spot. Nobody's ever taken a picture of one of
That's
these
also
things.
what's weird to me is that like it doesn't have a head and it doesn't have legs, but it shoots you with lasers and or lightning, and it just seems like how
I
would
think
you
like
know?
a static
It's-
electricity.
orifice.
Maybe
apparently.
maybe somebody just got struck by fucking lightning and somebody else was like, I
And there
saw
was
the
a
snake
stick
next to it.
nearby.
No,
Yeah.
I think like somehow it crossed like an eel. You know, eels are electric.
Yeah.
Electric fish. Maybe it crossed somehow with a land worm, and grew into a proportion where, yeah, if you get close enough to this thing because it's so staticky, you're gonna get shocked. And
That's
the
what-
thing's
yeah.
slightly aggressive, probably too.
I think
'cause
it's more
kind
of like
an
a
angry
static
thing.
electricity where it like through the like ground, like it moving through really fast builds up a static electricity. Then you get anywhere near it and you get shocked.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
think it's like it's shooting electricity at you.
Well,
That
you
makes
get
sense.
hit with some 110 and stuff. You're gonna wonder who bit you.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Like, why did I get tased just now?
Especially if it's
But
in an
you
area
die
where
instantly
people aren't
too,
used to
so-
electricity being around predominantly. You get zapped with something, you're gonna be like, hey, what was that? That's not cool.
Well, I mean, but at the end of the day, and I found like something from National Geographic, like Nat Geo, where some dude's out in the Gobi Desert, like searching for the worm, blah blah blah. He found some cows.
Oh, that's a lot different than a worm.
were they
It's
were they shocked?
No, it was nothing shocking about it. It was actually just a whole like nothing happened. Like whoop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was really disappointing. And I think that, I guess that was the point. These are just like stories about things that we use to explain the unexplainable that we just make up. These are all imaginative
Like,
things.
hey, you shouldn't go walking on the far ends of the what desert? The
Gobi.
The Gobi Desert.
Don't
And
wander around
and
the
it's,
Gobi
no, and it's not
alone. Yeah.
because it's like, hey, you shouldn't do that because you're an idiot and you're gonna die if you do that. And they're like, I can make it, and he's like, no, okay, how am I gonna convince this dude?
All right. There's a
Okay,
big scary monster.
There's a huge, crazy 2-foot sausage worm that's
Yes,
gonna
2
shock
feet
you.
long.
That's why nobody ever does it. Do you believe that? And he's like, whoa, that's crazy. I don't think I'm gonna go. And he's
Sand-colored
like, "Thank
cucumber that
goodness."
shoots lightning.
Thank
Careful.
goodness you're not gonna make this a dumb trek and just die because you think you can. Like,
So really, I got really bored with the whole cryptid thing really quickly.
Well, that's a great introduction and a great follow through into what I'm assuming is the segue now, or is at the end of the podcast.
No, that's it. It's over.
All right, we're over then.
And that's a wrap.
Man, finally,
That's a
I had to
wrap.
scratch my balls real bad.
Oh,
No,
I was
so
scratching my
it
balls
just
the
made me
whole
it just
show.
made me think that all these things are just like they're like mythos and lore and the point of those things is to like explain something, right? And so I wanted to try and figure out what people are trying to explain with these.
When
with
you
these
just find, like Lauren said, like when
cryptids.
like somebody was walking in the desert and got struck by lightning, and then people like kind of like walk over and like find them days later, and then this person like has wounds that I've never seen before. They're dead. Like what could possibly do this?
And maybe they saw a snake nearby and just assumed.
Like it starts wandering from there, building lore, and I'm sure there's a lot of venomous things over in the Gobi Desert too. So I'm sure they were finding people dead, all puffed up for years.
Well, and my question is, you keep building it up like we're talking about dragons tonight, right?
We'll get there.
Because like,
You were really hoping to talk about dragons.
I really.
Hey,
want to talk
Lauren,
about
you look
dragons.
hurt right now.
I know.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. Hold on. We'll get there.
Okay. Fine.
I'm kind of wondering what happened in the early 1900s, because you said 1926. Nessie really blossomed in 1933.
Oh
And
shit.
you know what I mean? So it's
People
like right
got
around
The fucking telegraph.
right
happened,
around the
dude.
Great
Moldy bread.
right around the Great Depression time. It seems like a lot of fantasy really
Depression.
arose.
When did the Depression end?
35.
Mid 30s. Ron's still depressed.
Ron's still depressed.
Yeah, it doesn't end for some people.
That was Ron's 9/11.
Ron, you old.
So yeah, these things are clearly just like stories that we've been telling ourselves. And you brought something up. I forget what it was called the other week. It's like when enough people believe in something, it becomes
A topla.
It becomes real. And I'd sooner believe that, toplas exist than the Mongolian Death Worm like evolved in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
more likely the Tremors worm.
I mean, it's probably Shai Hulud.
I mean,
Though
guy from
some
Holes?
guy went out in like 1990 or something like that. Went out into the Gobi Desert and like built like thumpers, like from Dune, like the rhythmic thumpers, and like put it out in the desert to try and draw this worm out. Man, people are so stupid.
Well, that's another weird thing with all of that, where like we make like especially all of us like growing up in the 90s and the like, early 2000s, all of our movies and our apocalyptic shows that we watched and all of that, we're making that stuff real like in our reality.
well, and you also have to acknowledge the dedication that that man had. He was like, everybody's been trying to find this using like conventional means. I read a book one time.
Yeah,
So I got a theory about this.
because he 100 was like I read this book and this is what I think I'm gonna do.
Well,
he was
and
inspired
honestly,
by Dune. To
I think he
go
was inspired by it, but also
make
like,
rhythmic fucking thumping devices.
it's an unconventional thing that like if worms do, if they can feel vibrations, maybe this is. But imagine his reaction should he have actually come upon that thing.
That would have been amazing. Hopefully, we would have heard about it, and we'd
But,
have some
like-
solid goddamn evidence.
If it was a very
Like a
dangerous like creature and he did come across it,
Like
you would
a
never see him
specimen.
again.
I do want to also throw in a little bit of just random side fact that Walt Disney was 25
Racist.
in 1926.
Jesus Christ.
And
Go
if
on.
he
Glad he's
if
dead
he had if
Glad
he
he's
had
dead.
a reason to, he would have totally collaborated with the Nazis. Mm-hmm. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, that's that'll be in the Nazi theme one.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's still in the making.
The Battle of Midway.
Researching it for the last 25 years.
This one's for the boomers. We're talking about World War II again.
You guys didn't catch them all. You just brought them here.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Anyway.
Was the moon worth it?
Are we?
We never went back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry for the digression.
Yep.
I could talk about real energy all day.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Get out of here. Get
out.
out of here. All right. So I got a little bored with the Mongolian Death Worm, and I started just digging through the bottom end of the Wikipedia page.
Like, what do you mean about like the resources?
Yeah, or things like related things and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I found this story about the Lambton Wyrm.
The face that you're making, the listeners can't see, but the face you're making, it sings of richness.
I'm
Yes.
very curious.
Oh man, the Lambton Wyrm. So this is a story from the United Kingdoms or whatever. It's a legend from the county of Durham in the northeast England, and it takes place around the River Wear, which is important, I think, for the local, because this is like a local lore story.
Yeah.
And so as the legend goes, the story revolves around John Lambton, an heir of the Lambton estates in Durham, and his battle with a giant worm, which is also a dragon. Like, if you remember,
A dragon.
So it's a worm with wings.
well, if you remember, like in The Hobbit, Smaug was always being referred to as the Great Worm.
Oh,
WYRM.
Yeah.
And that, I think, the use of the Y was just Tolkien's like cryptic, like he was just rebranding the word a little bit. But
Yeah.
so like this is actually a story about a dragon. So there
Okay.
you fucking go.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
So
He's fist fighting this dragon.
no.
Out in the river Weir.
Nah, we'll
Did
get
he
there.
roll a critical roll?
Yeah, so story revolves around this young heir to the estate, Johnny Boy Lambton. And so what happened was this guy John was not like he was always fucking off. He was a little shit. And instead of going to church one Sunday, he decided to go fishing in the River Wear. And while he's fishing, or while he's going to go fishing, right, he gets he receives a warning from like an old man or a witch, depending on the telling, right? Because this is like an oral story, an oral traditional story.
Some creepy old person that is
Right,
mistaken
some
what
cryptic-
their gender might be because they're just like
It's a Morpheus.
Cryptic,
Yeah.
old,
So
grumpy
old,
person,
they're
right? You know.
wrinkled
You got a
into
Morpheus.
So, and this
plot.
person tells him that no good at all can come from missing church. But John doesn't give a shit.
Nice.
He's like, fuck church.
Fucking metal, bro.
Right? Super metal. This is about dragons, so of course they'll be metal.
Wait.
And so
he's
he
gonna-
doesn't catch anything, though. He doesn't catch anything until church service finishes, right? At which point, he fishes out a small eel or lamprey-like creature with 9 holes on each side of its salamander-like head.
Whoa.
Depending on the version of the story, the worm is no bigger than a thumb or about 3 feet long. In some renditions, it has legs, while in others, it is said to more closely resemble a snake. So at this point, the old man reappears. All right.
Morpheus comes back.
Right. And sometimes it's a different character, but there's still this like, here comes the warning. All right. And John declares to this old cryptic person that he has caught the devil and decides to dispose of his catch by discarding it down a nearby well. Now, this was the point in the story where I'm like, this kid's fucking stupid.
This is see,
I'm gonna
'cause
throw it well.
last you can
Like
find
you
the
think
devil in a well.
you think you caught the devil on a fish hook and you're gonna put it in the town's drinking supply? What the hell is wrong with you?
Why not
Yeah, you
put
get
it
some
in a
good
fire?
trips.
Right. Put it, or anything other than the well. A bucket.
Throw it to the crows.
Cut it up with a knife. Yeah, exactly.
Feed it, embrace it, and let it grow.
So he throws it down the well.
You got each side of the coin, man.
The old cryptic person then issues further warnings about the nature of the beast. Whatever those warnings are lost on Wikipedia. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, Iron Maiden has them.
That's true.
Yeah.
So listen to the anthology album, and
You'll
probably a
understand
lot more will
exactly
come
who
clear.
the beast is.
So John then he forgets all about the fucking creature because he's just this flippant little asshole.
Very dumb.
And he eventually grows up, and as penance for his rebellious early years, he joins the Crusades. And based on whatever people who are smarter than me, they think that it's probably the 14th century that this story comes from, and that there was the Barbary Crusade,
I was thinking that.
right? Yeah, I mean, I knew you were thinking that, Joe.
I was on that road.
Yeah.
History buff over here, Joe.
Right. So eventually, this thing, like, he leaves, he fucks off, right? He goes to the Middle East to kill brown people, like any good white person would do from the 14th century.
Conquistadors.
Fuck, man.
Sounds really reminiscent of something, but I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know about oil yet.
Yeah, I can't
But
put my
eventually,
finger on
in
it.
his absence, this fucking worm grows extremely large and becomes poisonous, and the well becomes poisonous. The villagers start to notice livestock going missing,
Oh, shit.
and discover that the fully grown worm has emerged from the well and has coiled itself around a local hill. And they have this picture here, Worm Hill,
Let me see that.
in Fatfield, Washington. Worm Hill. It's a pretty decent sized hill. Like,
It's
if something were to
definitely
be
hill-like.
curled around this, it would be humongous,
Yeah.
like King of Tokyo shit.
For the listeners, it's not like a hill where here in California you would imagine where it comes up like 300 feet or so. Maybe it comes up like 50 feet. I can't really.
It's
tell
just
from
a
the
big,
photo.
wide, fucking mounded dirt.
Yep, exactly.
Right. So they finally notice it on the hill.
Alright.
Where I lost my place. So this worm or dragon keeps terrorizing the nearby villagers, eating sheep, preventing cows from producing milk, and snatching away small children. Smart dragon.
Yeah.
It then heads towards Lambton Castle, where the Lord, John Lambton's aged father, manages to sedate the creature in what becomes a daily ritual of offering the worm the milk of 9 good cows, which is apparently about 20 gallons of milk.
That's
That's a
valuable.
lot
Yeah.
of milk.
In a stone trough.
That's how I used to go to sleep when I was a kid.
In a stone
Stone trough.
trough.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Filled with milk.
Filled
Yeah,
with milk.
just-
Milk bath.
Milk so much that it's coming down my nose. Like, I just fall
that is-
asleep. Like,
A lovely image.
that's the reason why I'm so big and healthy now.
Exactly.
We'll
Don't
talk
get
about that
sick.
another time.
All right. So a number of brave villagers try to kill this beast. Right? They try to fight the dragon, but we all know how that goes.
They win every time, right?
Yeah.
They lose their.
No, they're quickly dispatched. Apparently, whenever you cut a piece of the dragon off of it, it just reattaches, and everything's fine.
I can
Right.
venom.
Apparently, knights show up to fight this thing. Nobody can beat it. And the worm gets all annoyed with this, and so it
He's just,
apparently
like,
it
yawning.
uproots. It starts uprooting
stop.
trees with its tail, and then like flailing around with it like it was a big club.
Hell yeah.
This goes on for a while, about 7 years, right? Nobody can beat this thing.
This also sounds reminiscent.
Right, and so after these 7 years, our boy Johnny, he finally shows back up. He returns from the
Finally.
Crusades, so he's got it going on. If
He's
you've
gonna
ever
kick
seen
some ass.
any of those movies about people returning from the Crusades, and that's when shit gets real.
He's about to kick some ass, isn't he?
Maybe we're gonna
It's
find out in
real.
the second half of this episode.
Oh, snap.
You know
But
what I
right
think
now,
hap-
we're
you know
gonna-
what I think happens?
We're gonna take a short break.
I think he gets eaten by the well.
Yeah, he gets eaten by. Well, don't spoil it, but he gets eaten by a whale.
I think there's some real
Knew
wormy
it.
stuff that's about to happen.
Oh, you bet there is.
I think this is Beowulf.
Oh no.
No,
Or like
No.
Babe
Why?
Wolf.
yeah, it's Babe Wolf.
Beowulf.
Or
All
Bay
right.
Wolf is the better.
And we'll be back.
This week's episode of Black Sheep and Bad Apples was brought to you in part by the following. Oh, holy hell! I'll kill ya! Ah! Thank you for tuning in, and now a little bit more of Black Sheep and Bad. Get out of here!
And we're back. Fuck yeah, fellas.
Hell yeah.
×2.
Times 3.
Feels good.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Sean, you feel better? Your bladder's empty? Everybody's ready?
I think I'm doing alright. I took a little
Just like
tinkle.
Mama said.
Are you done
Good
tripping
stuff.
over the power cable for the soundboard?
I mean, I like a little shock here and there. We've been talking about electric worms for a bit.
Yeah,
So
you gotta lick your fingers beforehand, though. I've been telling you about this.
I figured I'd just pee on it.
That
That's-
would work.
Yeah.
That
Darwin
would work.
Award.
Darwin Award. Man, where were we? Were we at the vanquishing of the worm?
That's exactly where we were.
Oh, good.
It sounds like where I want to be.
So, quick recap. Our homie dropped this baby dragon in a well. It turned poisonous and gigantic. Now it's terrorizing the town, eating knights, killing people, drinking up all the milk from 9 good cows every
Just
day.
fucking shit up.
I can't imagine how much, like, 20 gallons of milk is worth. Like, fresh milk is worth
And
when,
of
like,
course,
there's
you
no
know,
refrigeration. So, like, you basically use that shit today or it's
Imagine a
cheese
stomach
tomorrow.
ache.
I mean, but we're talking about an
imagine his bowel
animal
movements.
big
Yeah.
enough. That's like your morning glass of OJ for it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like gorging, I think, on milk. It's big enough to wrap itself around a hill.
Yeah, it's badass.
You know, in my mind, this thing's hundreds, of
That's
feet.
what, like, actually, that like hill in the window there is a pretty good example of that.
Right,
Just
like
wrapped
as if it
around
was
that.
curled up
Like,
around the
yeah.
top of the hill. Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, that's a titan, right? So it's this titanic fucking dragon worm thing that may or may not have legs. Certainly doesn't seem to have any wings.
Definitely not a worm anymore.
It's not a worm, yeah. Just like I think the Mongolian Death Worm wasn't particularly a worm. It was
Wait.
actually a fucking boa constrictor.
And you said it doesn't have wings?
I mean, none of the descriptions have it being winged.
Interesting.
Right. So our boy John, he returns. He's been to the Crusades and back. Right. He's pulling a
Noble warrior.
Robin of Locksley
Hell yeah.
kind of move, right? And he's like, yo, I got to fight this worm. So he goes and he finds himself another witch or old lady who lives near Durham, which is where he's from, where his estate
Excellent.
is, right? And this witch hardens his resolve to kill the beast by explaining that it was really his responsibility for the worm in the first place.
Yeah. He's been a piece of shit and he's got to go and
Right.
deal with his.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, yo,
You sow your seeds.
you went to the Crusades. You're a man now, so it's time for you to man up and deal with this
Gigantic
this
problem.
bullshit, this humongous issue you fucking left behind. And we'll get to like what I think the metaphor for this thing actually is, but
Oh yeah,
Afterwards.
because I was just thinking that old witch was probably just like a hotter old woman that just like gave him some of that good, and he was just like, all right, fine, I'll do whatever I need to stay here.
Now, God damn it.
right. Right. So he went and saw this cougar witch and she hardens
witch. I wanna get
his
that on.
resolve, right? She also tells him that he needs to cover his armor in spearheads and fight the worm in the River Weir, right? Where it now spends its days wrapped around a great rock.
And he
It's got to
caught
be a really big rock.
he caught the worm in that same river, right?
Same river in
Yeah.
which it was caught, right? The witch also tells John that after killing the worm, he must then kill the first living thing he sees.
Reasonable. Reasonable.
Or else his family will be cursed for 9 generations and will not die in their beds.
Sounds like a good old Abraham curse right there.
Right. So this dude gets his armor right, puts
Bunch of spearheads.
Spearheads all over.
He's made of spears.
Which is funny because it reminds me of a character that I was sort of telling you about this morning in a book. Here we go. We got this guy turning himself into a real life one, covered in spikes. And he arranges with his father. He's like, "Listen, old man, when I killed this worm, right? I'm gonna go kill this fucking thing. When I'm done with that, I'm gonna sound this hunting horn on that signal. You're gonna release my favorite dog, so that it can run to me, and that'll be the first thing that I see is my favorite dog, and I'll kill the dog."
Not his least favorite.
Well, that's not a sacrifice.
Or whatever. Well, it's just got to be the first living thing he sees.
It could be a fucking duck or
Yo,
a pigeon
close
or
your
a fucking
damn eyes.
dragon.
What if a bug flies by? You're
could
like
dig a
obligated
plant-
now to
Yeah.
swat this mosquito. Like,
God knows that.
You can dig
Right.
a plant out of the ground. Just rip it to shreds.
so, but it's his favorite because he knows it'll run immediately to him. So, you know what I mean? And then he
Yeah,
can
I
kill the dog and avoid the curse. So then he goes and he handily kills this fucking thing. This worm, this dragon, this sea serpent, this cryptid, whatever, lives in the water.
Yeah.
Right? It tries to crush him, but the spearheads save him. And eventually this worm is dead from just basically trying to... he doesn't do anything. He just goes and he, gets his ass kicked by this worm, basically. But because he's covered in the spearheads, the worm just,
Gets his shit all
chops
fucked
itself
up.
to pieces in the river, and then the water washes the pieces away so it can't reattach them. All right? So eventually this worm's dead. Our boy John sounds his horn.
Vanquish the foe.
He vanquished the worm, right? As none of the knights could do. But unfortunately for this guy, this young gentleman, his dad's kind of a dumb shit apparently. And is so excited that the beast is dead that he forgets to release the hound and rushes out to congratulate his son. Right?
Son of a bitch.
You just had to ruin
You
it.
had one job.
You had one
Like,
job.
one job. All you had
Chad.
to do was
One
just
easy job.
open the
Yeah,
kennel.
well, turns out his dad's name? Chadwick Lambton. No, I made that up.
Fucking hobo Johnson.
You made that up?
I made that up.
Yeah, his name was Hobo Johnson.
His name was Hobo Johnson.
Fuck Hobo
One fucking
Johnson.
job. And he fucking failed.
Hobo Johnson.
So anyway,
I can't wait till he shows up here and kicks all our asses.
John can't bear to kill his dad.
You're fucking kidding me.
And so, after they meet, the hound is released and dutifully dispatched. They kill the dog anyway. Right? They're like, fuck it, we'll just kill the dog anyway, just to be
Who
sure.
will know?
But it's too late for all that, and 9 generations of the Lambtons are cursed, so they shall not die peacefully in their bed. Thus, the story ends. But it turns out that the curses, at least, sort of held true for the first, the next 3 generations.
They were just shitty people.
Well, there's no information on if John died in his bed or not, but his son, Robert, drowned.
Presumably in the same river.
Hot.
Robert's son, William,
Jesus Christ.
was killed at Marstone Moor, and William Lambton, his son, died in battle at Wakefield.
Super cute.
It's all
Not-
fine and good.
Yeah.
Sounds like Forrest Gump.
It sounds
Where
about
he's like,
bored.
don't take me out of the battlefield.
Then we
I'm
get
meant
to
die."
Henry. Then we get to Henry Lambton.
God damn it.
Uh,
What? What Sam?
Died in his carriage crossing Lambton Bridge.
Jesus
To
fucking Christ!
his house.
I fucking knew it. I was like,
The
this
last
is going
stretch,
well.
and he went down with a bridge failure.
So
They say most
general
accidents where you die, you're like 20 feet from home.
So then this guy Harry had a brother, General Lambton.
Was that his first name?
And yeah, I think so. and this guy is said to have kept a horsewhip by his bedside to ward off violent assaults. He died in his bed at an old age.
Just waking up and whipping.
Just whipping the shit out of everything. Imagine what his door
So
looked like.
there's a song
Imagine
there's
what
a
his
song
maid looked like.
that was written there's a song that was written in 1867 by C.M. Lumain, which passed into oral tradition and has several slightly different variants, most notably the use of googly or googly eyes, meaning bulgy. But
Steve
so
Buscemi
like
eyes.
somebody was using the term googly eyes in like the 1800s, so that ain't that new.
It's someone who looked like Steve Buscemi.
But apparently, like
Wait,
you
that
have
was
to-
that was the description of the man?
Googly eyes.
No, it's just something they used in the song, and
Oh, I see.
apparently the song is written in a kind of funny dialect, and so you have to.
Are you gonna read it to us?
No, fuck no,
Is
I'm
this
not.
gonna be racist?
But apparently you have to affect this dialect, which is a Macam accent. You have to affect a Macam accent to
Wait,
properly
who are we
sing
trying to
this.
offend?
Sam, so you're
Song.
attempting the Macam accent, right?
Nope, it's not happening.
Here we go. You heard it first here at Black Sheep and Bad Apples. Sam is going to try the Macam accent.
I don't even know what that is, so I wouldn't have a clue.
Go.
It's not happening. And as the host, as the head host,
The head host.
the head host,
Head
head
honcho.
honcho, yeah, Jinx, beer.
On the table.
Thanks, thank you.
Got you, baby.
I say no. I say no. Oh, I don't actually want it now. Thank you, though.
Shotgun it.
So apparently there's been a film made about this story that's an adaptation of the story by I want to say it was Bram Stoker wrote a book.
What?
Yeah. The Lair of the White Worm, a novel by Bram Stoker. And they made a 1988 film, The Lair of the White Worm, about that, based on that book.
That sounds like a great movie.
Well, it turns
1981.
out that it was a bit of a box office flop.
Yeah.
A bit of a
don't
box
say.
office flop. It had a $2 million budget. They lost $900,000 at the box office.
They didn't really get the worm thing until Tremors came around.
Yeah, I kind of feel that.
I mean,
same way.
They're a little slow and
Dune, the original Dune movie.
there's a lot around that besides the worm.
But the worms were very good.
Yeah.
All right, the worms were awesome. So shut
yeah,
up.
they were. pretty
And
good.
They
and
could eat whole harvesters, you asshole.
it's hard for me to say. All right. And Beetlejuice. That's the second time. Don't say it again, or else he'll show up. But
Jesus
they did it really
Christ.
well too.
Why are you guys both turning to the keys to the nuclear armament?
I want to get it out there. I said don't say it again.
Fuck's sake.
Beatniks.
Dude, you're just playing with fire.
Anyway, so there's the story of the Lambton Wyrm, a mythos about dragons, which
That was
I
from
much
England?
prefer to
cool.
these wacky ass Mongolian Death Worm, Sasquatch.
And those were from England?
Yeah, that story comes from England.
Yeah. Like Scotland?
We'd have to look. Where was it, in Junham?
Well, they had all the ancient stories of dragons, right? Like Excalibur and all of those.
Sure. I mean, also, I think dragons come from China as well.
Yeah.
And that
Well, I mean,
our modern day
that's
dragon
still one
is
solid landmass.
really more like I don't know, like an adaptation of the two.
You never hear of Russian dragons.
Oh, fuck.
Ooh, that would be.
I bet you they breathe machine guns.
Yeah, they just spit grizzly bears.
Yeah, their claws are made of grizzlies.
I feel like they got like more pointy heads, just out the top there. They got this cool like.
And you
obscure...
open them up, and there's just a smaller one under, like inside of them.
And you probably got like snow dragons that just like skate underneath the surface of the snow, just like our boys in Dune and Tremors, them worms. You know.
You ever watch like the other Tremors? Like
yeah.
They're up to like 6.
Yeah, there was the Tremors, the second one with the
ass blasters.
Were they ass blasters in that one?
That
I think they were just
or
on the 2 feet, and then I think the third
ass
one.
blasters are the flying ones.
Yeah, I think the third one was the ass blasters. I could be getting that wrong. And then you had number 4. I can't. Oh, that was the one that took place in a mining town. I want to say it was like an 1830s thing.
Yeah, the older one. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, and then and the next one was Tremors. The ice one or something.
The ice one I didn't like.
No, there
was just the older dude. That's like 6, right? Or is that like 5?
Yeah, I think it might be 6. I can't remember what 5 is at the moment.
So.
Oh yeah, there's something else.
Sorry,
the history of dragons here. The word dragon entered the English language in the early 13th century from Old French dragon. Apparently, they didn't do much change in there.
Dragon.
Which in turn comes from Latin draconium. Nominative Draco, meaning huge serpent, dragon. From the ancient Greek Drakon.
He's the one who fought Rocky, right?
Dracontos, serpent or giant sea fish. So, like, the word's rooted around a water-based creature anyway.
So, like, I always think of the Komodo dragon now, where it's kind of just a large reptile that.
I mean, that's what the Greek means, or the Roman is for huge serpent, or I guess that's about the same thing. Just got legs.
I remember hearing a theory that I really liked a long time ago that that a lot of dinosaurs were actually dragons, but their wings didn't go through the fossilization process. I really like that one.
Imagine a brachiosaurus with wings. It's like, how did that fat ass get up? And why don't we see any wings anywhere?
Yeah.
Well, or T-Rex with wings.
I can imagine if you stumbled upon like several different dinosaur fossils all together, one of which was a, what is that, a Quetzal? What was it, Quetzal?
Yeah, the Quetzal, the one.
It's like the largest.
Yeah, the largest.
Pretzel.
It's like 3 times as big as a pterodactyl.
Oh.
No, it was way bigger than that even.
Whoa.
They were stood like, I don't know, 12 feet tall and had like a 40-foot wingspan or something. You guys at home, if you're really interested, Google that shit.
Yeah, do your own damn research.
But like I could see finding like one of those that had been like feeding on, the decomposing remains of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then like a flash flood buries them both together somehow in the mud, and then you find that amalgamation of the skeleton and stuff, but you only find one skull. Right? You only find the T-Rex's skull, and it's got huge wings, and it's got big, powerful legs.
Its wingspan was 52 feet.
52 fucking feet. Woo! It's pretty damn big.
That's yeah. That's
It's
big.
as big as a Cessna 172.
That's fucking badass. Imagine just flying next to a
What's
plane.
the wingspan of an albatross? Like 12 feet, 14 foot?
Yeah,
Or a
something like
harpy
that.
eagle. That's like one of the biggest ones, right?
The albatross has the largest wingspan.
Yeah,
of
I'm
any
sure
bird.
albatross is bigger, but the harpy eagle.
The harpy eagle is definitely the largest predator, like raptor.
That's what, like it'll swoop down and pick up like a sloth.
Yeah, it's their
Right?
main
Like, they're
prey is the
fucking
sloth.
Awesome.
Dude, they're huge. They stand like 3.5 feet tall. They're almost as big as a fucking condor. I've seen condors in the Grand Canyon. That was pretty cool. They're humongous, dude. They're like 4 feet tall, just standing.
Oh, wow.
And when they go like, you know how like vultures
Just
do
drying
the
their
wing thing
wings,
where they
yeah.
like they just sort of stretch their wings up and like catch the sun and stuff like that. And it does that, and like its wings are like 8 feet up in the air. You know what I mean? It's just like the humongous bird. I would love to see a harpy eagle.
Yeah.
And an albatross for that matter. Wouldn't fucking shoot the thing though.
Wait, why not?
Well,
'Cause
you
it's
could
wrong,
take their
guys.
wings. If we have their wings, we could fly.
So,
kill
yeah,
them.
yeah. That's why you gotta shoot them to fly off the boat.
That's the famous riddle, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I've been waiting to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's where they made the mistake, is they didn't
Ah,
they didn't fly off the boat with its wings. Yeah.
the pie wasn't poisoned.
Water all around, and not a drop to drink.
What in the fuck is going on?
I'd like to go until
here?
like only half the room knows what I'm talking about. That's my
Yeah.
favorite place to be.
Very excited.
Are we there? I think
The
we
doctor's
might
a
be.
woman. What?
Hey,
Is
Sean,
everybody confused?
are you good over there? Because
Are you picking up what we're putting down?
No, I don't
Yeah.
pick up what you put down because you
I
do
have
it all
no
the time
idea.
on
Sam and
purpose,
Joe
I gotta
hour.
pick your shit up.
With Sam and Joe.
The Riddle Channel.
No, it's from the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner,
Yeah, like, it's a really famous riddle.
right? The guy shoots an albatross, and then everything goes bad. Goes bad for everybody on the boat.
You
and
don't
like
say.
right, and so I think they end up just sort of stuck in dead waters, right? And they run
Yeah.
out of their drinking water and their food, and I think everybody ends up starving to death and dying, and
So I
and that's
kinda
like the
remember
last like bit of it. I'm not 100%, but at some point he says water all around and not a drop to drink. And it's one of the more poignant parts of the poem, because if you think about it, that's got to be the most maddening, frustrating, insane thing, to be trapped on a boat somewhere surrounded by water that you cannot fucking drink.
You want to hear it?
The whole thing.
It's not too long. A man goes into a restaurant on the seacoast. The restaurant advertises that it has a beautiful view of the ocean over the cliffs. The man goes inside and sits down. When he looks at the menu, he sees albatross soup. He orders it. When the soup comes, he takes one bite, puts down the soup. He then leaves the restaurant and goes to his car without paying. He gets into his car, drives off the cliff into the ocean below, killing himself instantly. Why did he drive off the cliff?
It's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, that's
There's no answer.
Huh.
the soup was hella good.
Is it like Red Bull?
It gives you wings. All right.
The man was a sailor when he was young, and when he was shipwrecked with 4 other sailors, they floated on a raft for days with no water or supplies. One morning, the man woke up to find that one of the other passengers was missing, and one of the other remaining men was eating something. He said that he had caught an albatross and offered for the others to eat some. The man suspected he couldn't prove that it was the other passenger. Eventually, they were rescued. The man lived in suspicion until the day in that restaurant. After tasting the soup, he realized that it did not taste the same as that day on the life raft. The man realized he ate human flesh and, overwhelmed with disgust, drove himself off the cliff. It's longer than the riddle.
It's so much longer than the riddle. What the fuck is that?
That's
That's a mess of a riddle.
Huh. That just sounds like an unfortunate series of events right there. I mean,
Yeah. It's like, why did he fly off the cliff? I don't know, because he's a fucking lunatic. It's
Sounds like he had some problems. Oh, it turns out he ate his friend.
That is the one that I was
Realized
thinking
it
of,
without
but I
it.
definitely did think it was a lot longer and more in depth.
The riddle.
No, what I was thinking of is this actual poem.
It's a poem.
It's a poem called "The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner." Hold on, let me grab it up here.
Grab it up.
I think it's rather long. That's why I was like, oh, it's short.
Grabbing
Huh?
up that poem.
When I typed in
Grabbing
Albatross
up that
riddle and
poem.
saw it was only a paragraph, it really surprised me.
Yeah, that was I had no idea in which direction you were going with that.
Me neither. Like,
You're like, hey, and I'm gonna start. Why did he fly off the cliff?
I
I
saw
was taken aback. Truly, I was like,
I saw a Bob's
No.
Burger episode the other day where they were making fun of this, and they were all eating poisonous pies, and I thought that had something to do with it. But I get really like tricked with cartoons a lot and famous literature. Like, I'm always thinking like Hamlet's like some like weird cartoon character that it's not, and I'm like, it doesn't work.
I mean, apparently they've made 3 movies
who?
The
about
Albatross?
this. The Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. One was a silent film from 1925.
I'm sure that's a
One's
blast.
from 1975 and one's from 1978. Like,
And those other 2 were made with LSD and cocaine.
mm-hmm.
Like they put it in the film.
Yeah. Like back then, it's in everything.
It's on the film.
That's how they developed the like negatives.
You had to lick the film in order to develop the negatives.
You see the movie in your mind.
Well, why do you think the editing got so intricate back then? It's because the guy was in there touching all the film with the cocaine on it while he was cutting all the reels of film, and then it was just getting. He was just like, "Yeah, this seems interesting. Oh yeah, look at that. Ah, chop, 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 chop,
Pink
chop."
Floyd's
This
the
light's
wall, bro.
perfect for it.
Pink Floyd's the wall.
Oh, dude, man! Like you ever
Dude.
watch that while like listening to Hoobastank? It lines up perfectly.
Yeah, dude. Like 7 hours of Hoobastank, bro.
Yeah, man, it's great. Tub humping.
God damn you.
The reason is you, Pink Floyd.
You could see like a midget hang himself in the background when like Chumbawamba's bass really
Jesus
drops.
Christ. We've gone off.
we have come so far.
Yeah,
We are lost in the wilderness. I was gonna wrap this whole.
You're gonna rap?
I was gonna wrap this whole thing up.
You want to do a freestyle dragon rap?
No, I wasn't. No,
Okay, I just.
I mean,
maybe you
we
wanted
could if
just
you
by
wanted.
thought I
just
heard
by
that. I'm
returning to
I mean, we
returning
could.
to the mythos, but I guess we're off on another topic at this point. Well, I forget we were talking about. Joe was saying something
Hoobastank.
about Hoobastank.
Yeah,
so,
that's where I was.
Hoobastank,
I-
yeah.
if you leave me long enough, that's where I'll get. Like, you just always find me there.
That or
I
Smash
get
Mouth.
knocked down.
So you got the you've got the mythos.
So I guess what I was gonna say is that all these little mythos come from somewhere, and they're an attempt at an explanation, or they're, an analogy for something, such as the worm, the Lambton Wyrm. But we don't, like, just take the lesson away from it. Don't
Run.
leave problems to get bigger while you're away. Deal with them before you go on crusades. All right, that's where it is. Don't walk around in the fucking desert alone. If you see a large hairy thing in the woods, don't move quickly.
If some attractive cougar is like, do all these things for me before I will, then maybe you should take some precaution that you shouldn't.
I mean, generally, it seems like in these stories, like the old cougar has got the right idea. Like she gave him the tight information about how to defeat the worm. Seems like she could have told anybody that.
Yeah, it feels like she was kind of lackluster in the story. It's like,
I know.
why didn't you just, like, as you said, tell somebody else in the village? Because
Right.
I'm sure there were smiths. Like, and obviously he's got...
Somebody could have made a bunch of spear points.
Yeah, and obviously somebody's got to deal with it. And so, like, you're going to wait 7 years this guy was on crusade? You're going to wait 7 years to deal with the problem just because you're like, well, he's got to pick his own garbage up.
Well, I mean, maybe...
He's got to clean his own
Maybe
room.
the point is that it's like you can leave behind problems that other people can't clean up. You know what I mean? That only you can deal with.
That's definitely the point of the story.
Right.
But it's...
So...
Well, I
But
mean,
my
it's
my
the same-
point is that these are all stories. Hold on. My point is that these are all stories, and that fucking going out in nature and being out in nature is scary enough on its own without people fucking having to get it all fluffed up. You know, I've been attacked a few times by some wild animals. The smallest of which was a badger. It was also the most ferocious.
Vicious, yeah, man.
I had a flying squirrel try and attack me once. It was while
Yo,
I was taking a poop.
It's hard to figure out the physics with that. Like, you can punch a squirrel and kill it, but like when it's flying, you don't know where it's coming in from. Like, that's a little tougher. Like.
Yeah, fucking airborne rodent.
But what I keep thinking with it is it's almost exactly like the problem in the '90s in New York when people were flushing their alligators down the toilet because they're getting too big.
What the...
And
Right, they're pet
as much as that
alligators.
is like an urban legend, it didn't happen. It did happen a couple times, and they survived down there. Like,
Yeah, but if somebody was like, yo, I saw an alligator somewhere you wouldn't expect an alligator, like Lake Champlain, I'd be like, okay, that's crazy, but believable. If you tell me you saw a fucking plesiosaur in Lake Champlain, I'm going to go, I want some evidence. Because, like, I've been in nature a bunch, and I've seen a whole lot of crazy shit, and not a single bit of it was unexplainable.
But that's where I feel like they have gotten to a point. This area of cryptids has gotten to a point of realizing man-made objects and knowing to stay completely away from radio signals, from like Wi-Fi. We project a lot now. We project music like noise a lot to scare things away, but like our pockets are just riddled with sound waves and things, and like who knows what they could say.
Fair enough. So, you know, whether you choose to believe or you look for a little more evidence, you want a little more evidence on the thing, it's up to you. And we're going to leave you with that. This has been Black Sheep and Bad Apples. Lauren, thanks for letting me control the mic.
I think dragons exist and are hiding in caves, but we'll get to that another day.
I mean, I hope so. Joe, thanks for being here. Ron,
Thank you.
thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Sean, good job, buddy.
Fourth corner.
Plug.
Plug.
Oh,
Fuck
and
Lobo Johnson.
yeah, definitely fuck